Sonia, do you want to tell me about any signs or symptoms that you might have spotted in your dad before he actually got a diagnosis?
I think that there was times where he'd forget things that he wouldn't normally forget. But because as he retired, he used to do neighbours' gardens and things like that. In the winter months, he seemed to be what we used to call mushy, because he wasn't. It obviously wasn't, when we look back, he wasn't stimulated when he was busy. Doing what he liked. He seemed okay, but gradually, as we look back now, we think, well, actually, they were probably signs then that things were changing. He was just forgetting to do things. There was a lot less concentration. He would still be busy with my mum. He'd still be doing things with my mum. But it was mainly just forgetting little things that that he wouldn't normally forget.
That's great, thank you. I suppose from my perspective, it would be interesting to know how you feel that dementia has affected your dad's behaviour.
As it's progressing, things are changing, but then it is mainly the personal care things. He gets agitated a bit more, and Dad was never like that as a person before. And we're lucky with Dad. He's quite a loving man, and he's still got a lot of loving tendencies. So he's still there. But it is I don't like to say aggression, but it is the sort of the agitated stages that he goes through that aren't Dad.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing to bring up, because people often have an experience of a person living with dementia who seems to be experiencing distress when they're receiving personal care. If we put ourselves into their shoes, most of us wouldn't want help from somebody else to wash and dress, and therefore it's perfectly natural behaviour. But there's a tendency for people to think that because the person's got dementia, that it's part of the symptoms. But actually, it's that element of just not being able to accept somebody doing something to you that's so intimate and so personal. So thank you so much for sharing that, because it is a very difficult thing. And sometimes people will refuse to wash and dress for days on end because actually they believe that they've done it, or they don't want somebody else to support them with it. I think that's a really important point for us to bring out for people.
I think as well, it's quite a sensory thing. There's so many senses that are heightened with personal care. There's so many senses that touch, feel, it's everything, isn't it? Yeah. So sometimes that can be really overstimulating for someone living with dementia as well, and we have to bear that in mind as well.
We find that music can be very helpful in circumstances where somebody is showing that they have some distress, and that often happens around personal care. So knowing what music is important and how it reaches people, we can use that to help us deliver the care and support. And for loved ones, it's often that time that they can come together with mum, singing a song that they remember or something that mum always danced to, and that gives great joy for both.
Yes, definitely.
That happens a lot with my mum. She wasn't a singer before she got dementia, and now she does not stop singing. And she'll start and she'll be able to communicate in a normal spoken way, and then when the words fail her, she'll start singing, and she'll be able to carry on and communicate through singing. And the joy on her face whenever we play music, we play it when she's having a bath or a shower, or just if she's not really engaging, put the music on, sing with her, and it doesn't matter that you can't sing. It gives her great joy.
And often we go just a little bit too fast for people.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you imagine somebody's brain is slowing down and elements of it are dying, that actually if we go too fast for a person, then they're likely to say stop. And sometimes that might not be stop in the way that we're expecting it. It might be different types of language, sometimes foul language that happens as a result of somebody just saying, back off. This isn't comfortable for me, and I need a little bit more time to build up a trusting relationship with you. They're really important for us to recognise that. Were you expecting those sorts of behaviours?
No. I mean, my father-in-law had dementia also, but everybody's different. Everybody, not everyone's the same. So maybe some people would be able to cope with it, but then some people can't cope with it. So I think seeing Dad quite agitated is quite awful as a daughter to see, when you've been with someone that's been calm and wouldn't hurt anybody, wouldn't intentionally hurt anybody. But like they don't.
It
He
isn't
doesn't know that
intentional,
it's
is
happening.
it?
No, it's not an intentional thing, but it is what's going on in their minds.
Yeah.
You have to try and get into their world, but that's very difficult. That's kind of easier said than done, because you can't understand something so what would be normal, like putting a slipper on or something like that, would become quite a traumatic thing. And Dad struggles with that. That's he gets agitated by other people's agitation also, but that's probably his police career. He hasn't lost that sense of protection and things like that is still there with Dad. That emotion is still there, so not everything goes.
And I think that's such an important thing to bring in, Sonia, at this point, is how important a person's life history is.
Yeah.
How important knowing about what they did for their profession or how they lived their life, what their routines were, is so critical to understanding any behaviour changes that are happening and how they like to live their life. No, I think that was really beneficial for us, so thank you. I think from our perspective, it would be interesting to know how you've managed to cope with his behavioural changes.
I think I don't think you do cope with them. I think you just have to change your way of thinking about things, and you have to deal with them because it's Dad.
Yeah.
You know, you try and cope. You can't find the answers, so you kind of learn it as you go along.
Yeah.
When someone's diagnosed, you don't have a rule book. That's the thing. You just have to learn as you go along. With Dad, we tend to find things to calm him. He loves his music. He loves singing. So we just put the CDs on and away we go. You can bring him round. That's the thing. You can find ways of calming him down. We have our little ways of doing it, and it's...
Nobody lives a life where they are perfectly balanced all the time.
No.
And I think that's something that there's a tendency to think that people should just accept and sit quietly and be how they are. But actually, we all have mood swings.
Yes.
And different things actually irritate us, whether it's football on the television or whether it's how somebody's behaving in a restaurant. I think those things can be exacerbated, and people think that, it's because they've got dementia. Actually, it's normal behaviour.